Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's greatest licensing podcast. My name is Craig Renti, and I will be your host today. At least for the next 30 minutes, I'm the world's greatest podcast host. And I am happy, super excited to be joined by Brian Luper from the greatest university in the world, which is Rutgers University. Brian is a director of IT procurement, and has been with Rutgers for many, many years. So he's got a ton of experience. So welcome, Brian, to the show. We appreciate you joining us for today.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, now listen, there's a lot of pressure on you because you have to be the world's greatest podcast guest, at least for 30 minutes.
Right.
And we're competing with Taylor Swift today. So she is a guest on another podcast. So you have to step it up, I think.
I'll try to ramp up the excitement level.
Well, we're going to talk about procurement and IT, so it's going to be hard to keep that excitement down. No, we really do appreciate it. So, can you just give the audience here a little bit of background on who you are and what you do and what your role is, so they know you as well as we do?
Sure. So I've been at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, for people who might not know, for a little over 25 years now. I've had a couple different roles over my time here, but right now I'm largely focusing on overseeing a team that deals with endpoint management, remote support at the university, managing the physical and virtual computer labs on campus, as well as coordinating central software licensing for the institution. We support, like directly support about 2,000 employees in our organization, but we're also developing and offering services that are available to the entire university community, which is about 27,000 faculty and staff and 69,000 students across the university system.
That's a lot of students. Is that Newark and New Brunswick and Camden and everywhere else?
And Rutgers Health, yeah.
And Rutgers Health. Wow, that's a lot. So you have been there for 25 years. So you started 1999? Were you there
So
for
very
the
tail end.
year 2K? Were you involved with that? Did that, bring back some memories or?
I was for sure. I mean, fortunately, I wasn't in the mainframe world, which had a little more drama than the Windows endpoint. I think we were managing Novell back then and
Mhm.
Windows NT. But it sort of came and passed with pretty much a whimper, less of a roar for us.
It did. I remember, watching the ball drop in Times Square and thinking, okay, the world's going to end now. Everything's horrible things are going to happen, and nothing happened,
Yeah,
which is, I guess, what you want when you're in IT, right? You sort of want nothing bad to happen. That's sort of one of our goals.
that's what you hope for. I mean, we sort of watch the clock every time either there's a time change, a major event for us, like when we start opening up registration for the next semester, when students start moving to campus. All of those are sort of milestone events for us, and we have to test every year to make sure that everything holds up to the student demand. Like I said, there's 69,000 some odd students that are hitting these systems on a daily basis. So we do stress test things to a degree that a lot of other institutions don't really see.
That the use of technology by students, and I'll date myself here and sort of, my son is starting the college application process, so he's going to be a senior in high school, and everything I did when I went to college is 40 years dated. So what he's doing now, I did 40 years ago. When he registers, when he goes to school for everything is 40 years behind. So I just remember, when I was applying for schools, you would phone the school and have them mail you an application, which you would fill out with a pen and send it back with a check. And the technologies the students are using now, everything's online, common application, maybe some supplementals, and it's very sanitary. It's just very so you're not connected, but then you have school visits and all of that, and the schools are tracking these things. They track all the engagements. I would imagine your work around bringing technology to students that could be an advantage for a university or a disadvantage as you're trying to attract more students, right? Because that's what you're doing. You want people to come to Rutgers and apply and sort of go there and have a great experience.
It's all, I mean, it seems like it's been very cyclical too, in the sense that there was this period of time where people needed to be taught how to use the technology. The students weren't arriving to campus necessarily with an email address already and understanding what they need to do. You were getting your first email address 25 years ago when you came to Rutgers. That certainly changed. People understand how to use the applications and the technology, but there's still also a need to really teach sort of like the fundamental understanding of how these things work. And we've also seen this like in the students that we're hiring to help us provide services to the campus community. There was a point in time where you needed to understand your Windows computer to actually do anything in Windows, to run that video game or install Word or whatever it was. And the computers have gotten better. So the problem solving skills have changed, I think, over time too. And now that we have students coming to campus who might have only been issued an iPad in, their K through 12, that just the level of inherent problem solving skills are very different because the computers are better. They work better.
Well, I think also just it's information is so much easier to obtain. You don't have to work for it. Like we has to go to the library and look up a book and find something out, or you just went without knowing. Oh, who is that guy in that movie? It's like I don't know. But now information is so readily available to kids and students and adults.
Mm.
There's almost no effort. I mean, he's applying to schools on his iPhone basically. There's no problem solving there. He's not going to, other than downloading an app and sort of filling it out. I'm like, how are you? He's like this. I'm like, how are you doing that? Don't you want to at least go on a big computer? No, I got it. It's okay.
Yeah, I've seen my kids write full term papers with their thumbs, and I just don't understand. It's like that just doesn't click for me. It's totally a
I mean,
generational thing.
like, that can't be good. Like that is not going to be a good paper. Come on, print it out. Get the pen. Start writing on it. Make comments. But they'll figure it out. Um, One of the things that drew me to ask you to be here is sort of the intersection of technology and procurement. So we I'm a little bit of a contracts nerd and been doing contracts now for many technology contracts for many years. Half of my life was on the sell side, selling to customers, and now half on the buy side. And you mentioned something before about um, the centralization of sourcing for IT. Talk to us a little bit about before that initiative. Like, what was the state of the world of IT procurement before the initiative that you spearheaded?
Well, I mean, it is still very much a work in progress, and that's sort of common for large public institutions. There are um, ultimately our IT support structure is wildly distributed across the organization. So as large as the central IT organization, which I'm a part of, is, there's just as many people who are providing support across the university at the edge. And some of the needs are different from what we can provide centrally versus what the distributed units need to provide. Whereas
Hmm.
we're sort of a well-oiled machine able to provide these broadly needed services like access to email, core applications, things like that. There's going to be a need at the edge for research computing support, development, things like that. So it is very much a shared service that we work with distributed IT units and then the central procurement team to decide and determine where's the best broadest need at the institution at any point in time.
Hmm.
So things like Office 365, some of the Oracle agreements, Adobe, centralizing those big ticket items that we know there's demand or just absolute requirements for at sort of like every nook and cranny across the institution is where our bread and butter is. And then we'll work with the units at the edge if they come up with something that may begin to rise to that level, or if we see a cost opportunity that, it could very well be that there's 3, 4 different departments that are all leveraging a certain platform or solution. And at that point, that's sort of when the red flag comes up and we go like, there's an opportunity here to centralize this license, bring down the cost for everyone,
Hmm.
allow us to introduce some governance into that platform, and maybe improve our security posture.
And we've definitely, we support um, many commercial, companies, public uh, companies, but we do have quite a few universities around the world that we support. And your comment around the decentralization of those models, I mean, it is really decentralized, much more so than in corporate America in terms
Mhm.
of procurement. I think that that is still, an area of maybe a little bit of catch up. But I was being interviewed yesterday, and someone asked me if I ever saw a situation where the procurement organization was surprised by the level of usage of software in the business, or maybe in this case in the university, because they would get hit by an audit or a request from a vendor for information. It was like, oh my gosh, yeah, every day. Like I think procurement, um, nothing that procurement is doing wrong necessarily, but there is a need, whether it's in a business or a university, people have needs right away. Hey, I need this thing right away. I need to use it. I'm going to go buy it, put it on my credit card or do something. So do you still come across that where you're surprised? Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was happening over there. They went around like I'm not, we're not airing dirty laundry here, but I would imagine that still happens today, even when you have these processes and procedures in place. It's the tech vendors are very good at pushing their technology around the protections that universities and companies build for software asset management and things like that.
It's a great point. I mean, ultimately, we partner very, very closely with the procurement team, and then we put some checks in place to help limit purchases that sort of go out off the ranch.
Mhm.
So if someone is trying to, at like the end, very edge of the university, tries to put a PO through, there's a couple of checks and balances in there that if it's of a certain commodity category, it'll hit the IT desk. Or we have some people who are IT buyers in the central procurement agency who might see that and just at least raise that flag and say, "Hey, it looks like someone on your team's buying this thing. Is that approved?" Um, but it's not absolute. And I think the bigger problem we're seeing now is there's just tons of I could use air quotes here. It's not going to come through necessarily over audio, but free software um,
Yeah.
with a big asterisk after it. And it's either free for personal use or it is free for education, but not all aspects of education. And it's either, I mean, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for everyone to read all the fine print. But that's the expectation. So we do afford our faculty and staff a certain amount of latitude because of the exact issues you mentioned. Some of them are working outside of business hours. Some of them are on the other side of the country, if not the other side of the world. They're out on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic and need access to things when they need it. And they can't necessarily work on the 9 to 5 schedule that we're here able
Right.
to install a piece of software in their computer. So keeping track of those types of applications, being able to understand when something gets installed and if the use terms don't necessarily apply to our particular case is really, I think, one of the bigger challenges that we're facing right now.
And we've seen it. We have a little company here, and I remember I got a letter from Adobe. Like not a letter, it was an email from their license compliance organization because they wanted to know about our usage of Adobe Acrobat. And I was like, oh, geez, here we go. At the time there was 10 people in the company, and it just turned out like you were right. I had a license, and I went online and bought a license using um, my personal email, and they saw my name and they saw I had people at this company with a work email. So they connected didn't cost us any money. It just I had to transfer this license from a personal use license to a business use license, and it was all fine. It was the same cost and everything. And here we are as a literally a software compliance organization, and I got caught there doing something that because I didn't go through that list of T's and C's, the 30 pages that you click I accept, and I just before I started Palisade, I kept using this tool, which I was paying for, but Yeah, so it's so easy for and it's just becoming more and more complex. You think like moving to the cloud and subscription models, everyone thought they would make things easier and less expensive, and it's sort of the opposite. It's just the commercial complexity is so much more than it was, 5 or 10 years ago.
I mean, at the same time, I mean, Rutgers is a large state institution. We're a big target when it comes to things like this. We do our best to monitor the activity internally, but at the same time, we very much care about trademark and copyright.
Hmm.
So
Of
when it
course.
comes up, like we want to respect the intellectual property of a vendor, and we'll work very, very closely with them to review our organization and just make that a constructive discussion. I mean, ultimately, if the faculty or staff member are getting value out of that tool, we want to have that conversation and make sure that it's being used appropriately.
Well, and I love the way you put that because when I was on the vendor side, when we were doing audits for Oracle, that was always one of the tests. And was, are you getting value from this? Did someone just accidentally download it as part of another product and installed it on their computer and never used it? Was it used once in a test environment? Or are you generating revenue from it? Are you, doing something like that? And I think, my experience is that um, universally people want to be in compliance. Everyone's trying to do the right thing. It's when they feel like there was a trap set, when they
Mhm.
feel like we weren't getting value and now you want to charge me for this thing. And, we can talk a little bit about Java. Oracle changed their model, right? It used to be, uh, licensed by cores or processors or named users, and now it's you have to buy it for everybody. 69,000 students, right? Plus, we want you to have this sort of universal license, and the cost got jacked up, but the value didn't, right? So, um, can you talk a little bit about your experience working? And I know you came to a very successful conclusion with Oracle. Where did you start in that process, and sort of where did you end there?
So we try to take as deliberate as approach as possible given our environment. And in our environment, like I was talking about earlier, is pretty messy given the fact that we have faculty and staff that have a lot of leeway, and then there's a lot of student devices on campus too. So normally, like when we have a an inquiry from a vendor, they're seeing all of that come from Rutgers space, or they're seeing all of that tied to university affiliated email addresses. So
Mhm.
trying to sort all of that always is a challenge. As we were looking at our Java licensing 4, 5 years ago at this point, the first thing that we did was sort of lean into what our peers are doing, which is sort of a huge advantage for being as part of the education vertical. We work very, very closely with our Big Ten peers, and then through some other organizations that we're a part of, and see like what's everyone else doing. We know this was all coming. What are you doing to manage this institutional risk? One of the schools that we spoke with, we kind of just followed their model, where
Mhm.
they put in a lot of effort to pull the university community to understand like, are you using Java? Uh, have you considered using any of the free alternatives? What would this mean to you if we transitioned? There are some acceptable use cases for the public, like Oracle's Java distribution in higher ed, at no cost. Are just understanding what the use case was across the organization, and getting the messaging out there was very, very important to us. Internally, it turns out that there was a core business application that required Oracle Java. We wouldn't get support from the under sort of like the secondary vendor without it. So we did go ahead and license Java for the institution. There was a lot of complexity in sort of right sizing that. So like you said, we wound up doing it by user count rather than
Mhm.
trying to pick specific users, specific areas, specific data centers, cores, processors, all of that. It just the model didn't really scale well otherwise. So we did enter into a multi-year agreement with them that we're in now. And I think as we're looking to exit that, we're going to have those same conversations with our peers and understand How has it gone for you? What are your next steps? Did you wind up changing course and licensing it for your campus? Did
Mm.
you find pockets that needed it? And what's the track record been?
No, that and full disclosure, Rutgers is not a Palisade client. So not yet. Now we get to spam you because we have your email. We're gonna be like, we want you to let us help you with Java. But definitely Oracle has um, made a couple of course adjustments since you signed that contract from, if we had talked a year ago, I would be like, get ready for the hammer to come next year. But at least in the last few months, we've seen Oracle be a little more flexible with some of the licensing. So, getting a renewal at or below your cost is possible. A year ago, I would have been like, you got to get off of that unless you're willing to sort of go to court with Oracle, and nobody wants to do that. So you're in a good. I think you timed that well. You sort of went. They went through this phase 2 and 3 and 4 years ago, where they were just being really hard nosed. So you sort of caught it. It's like buying a house. You bought your house when the price was down, and now you can sell it when it's high. You might have timed the market really well. Who knows next year or the year after, whenever your contract expires, what Oracle will be doing. But that's an area where we see um, consumers of the technology really upset. VMware customers are really pissed off because of what Broadcom is doing there, and Oracle has done sort of set the playbook with Java. Adobe's been pretty aggressive with some companies over the years, and that is, I just go back to what you said before. When you get value, you want to pay for it, but it's
Mhm.
sort of the when you're not getting value. Um, Transitioning away from Java for a second, can you talk a little bit about the educause and what you're doing there and that whole program? Because I think that is really interesting work that you're doing.
So educause is a nonprofit organization that a number of schools are a member of. It's open to higher ed internationally. So we've been working with them. I don't even know. It's probably longer, as long as I've been here, essentially. Um, but it allows us to connect to other organizations and understand what's going on. They have a number of community groups or affinity groups that are open to the community. What's interesting too is that it's not just education; it's partners of education too. So like we're sitting at the same table with our vendor partners at
Hmm.
some of these educause events. They're invited to the community group meetings, so they're hearing the successes as well as all the dirty laundry.
Hmm.
But it ultimately is that venue that can bring together, hundreds of high ed K through 12 organizations, so we can have those conversations about what's working, what challenges can we try to solve together? Are there consortium prices that we are not all aware of that we could take advantage of? Um, we, as big as education is as a market, it is a relatively small community. And I think the fact that in many ways higher ed isn't really competing with each other. We're collaborating with each other on research, we're competing in sports, but that's sort of secondary to everything else. That it sort of affords us the opportunity to have these conversations in a non-confrontational environment. We all want to see
Yep.
students grow, research grow, have these opportunities, and provide that best experience for students that are coming to all of our campuses. So we learn a ton from each other, and it's just a great opportunity for everyone to share.
That's such an advantage you have over the commercial space where they're competing, literally competing with one another, and they are just you think of, being in New Jersey here, pharmaceutical. We have so many pharmaceutical, and they're not sitting down at consortiums talking about what's working and what's not working. They keep that very close for good reason. But I can say with absolute certainty when I look at, what a university higher ed institute pays for a license of an Oracle database, it's a lot less than what a commercial customer spends. And part of that obviously is, in theory, we're all nonprofits here in higher ed for the most part. There's budget constraints, public sector, all of that, for Rutgers, for example. But you are talking to one another, and
Mhm.
you're sort of you learned from the other school and what they did with Java and sort of what worked. So now you can build on that. Now you're sharing that with other schools, and that just is that um, expansive knowledge. Obviously, you're a learning institute, so or an institute of learning. So that's keep that up because that is what really is the magic sauce for technology vendors is that their customers don't talk to one another. That's why they're going to Gartner events and things like that because Gartner
Mhm.
sees like 1,000 different customers who all have the same problem, or they'll come to us because, we see, hundreds of customers who go through whatever the issue is. Um, but you guys, I just love the fact that you're doing that, and I've seen that in the UK. They've got a consortium of universities. I was on the phone just last night with a university in Australia, and we were talking because we help a few of them, and we were talking about people, and oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that person. It's such a small community, like you said. So I think that really helps you guys in higher ed is just that communication. So and information sharing. It's so great. There was a commercial here in the East Coast years and years ago. An educated consumer is our best customer. There's a clothing store,
Mhm.
and I really believe that. When I walk and talk to when I walk into a customer or a client, and they have a base of knowledge, and you're not starting from scratch, it goes so much better for them than if they just have no clue, right? Because then they get set up for the hammer from the tech vendor.
I think what's great for us too is that it's pretty common for higher ed IT to be under-resourced. So just having those sounding boards or even being
Hmm.
able to get the the process or playbook from another institution that sort of already went through it is really helpful. And like we're eager to share as much as we need the information that they can provide to us. So just being able to see what's sort of going on the other side of the country, the other side of the world,
Hmm.
um, it's eye opening for a lot of our staff, but it is also like refreshing because we're all sort of going through the same things, and the more we can work together, I think it makes everyone's life a little easier.
And I think that technology vendors, they from a sales perspective, they've got sales teams that focus in your industry or your business,
Yeah.
just like they might have pharmaceutical or manufacturing or high tech. They have higher ed teams. All of them do. So whatever they're doing to you, they're doing to everybody else. It's not totally separate teams that treat you differently. They have a team of people who deal with Rutgers, and their goal is to generate revenue from Rutgers, and that's their KPI. We're currently I'm putting together some presentations, some talks we're doing, and I'm doing some research on tech spend. And one of the things that came up was um, companies are spending on average 17% of all their spend is on software and SaaS for their employees. Is that similar in university? Is that
I we're probably not that high, but I don't have a complete picture of that spend. I mean, I know that since I'm not responsible for the entire IT spend at the
right?
institution, even the software spend, there's big chunks that come out of other areas. It would be hard
I,
for me to assess
I
that.
would hope it would be less, right? Again, I think you're paying less for the same stuff, but commercially they're trying to make money and you're trying to educate. It's sort of different values there. And unfortunately, we place higher value on the commercial side than the education side. But yeah, and we're hearing 9% year over year software cost increases, about 13% on average SaaS increases for organizations. Just this upward trend of spend, spend, spend. Um, Again, I would think you guys, even though you're under resourced in IT, technology vendors still want to generate revenue. It's not like they're gonna like, oh well, we'll give you a break because there's no one there or there's no money. So they look for interesting and creative ways to drive revenue through the universities.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing about our annual increases are sort of in that range. It's going to be like between 5 and 15%, depending on the vendor and sort of like what stage of the contract we're in.
Right.
Uh, that definitely tracks. But our um, like our revenue generation, our student fees are not increasing at that same rate. So ultimately, it becomes a decision for us about what tools that we carry forward, where can we consolidate, or if we have to cut a service altogether.
There's a couple of just a couple more things I wanted to ask. One is, I guess the two hot. One is brand new hot, and the other's been hot for a while. The one is cloud. So um, like I mentioned, I was talking to a university in Australia yesterday, and they said their entire footprint is now based in the cloud, except for a few Oracle applications, which are still on premise. And their goal was to move those to an on premise situation. So they were not managing data centers. Is Rutgers primarily on prem? Are you primarily in the cloud? Have you, honestly, I don't know. Like, where are you guys going as an institution?
We are, I mean, very much in the hybrid mode right now, where there are certain core services that are hosted in the
Mhm,
cloud or vendor hosted. So like, our M365 agreement, all of our that storage and email hosting, that's all obviously in the Microsoft cloud. We have a pretty expansive footprint on-prem for both research and administrative data.
mhm.
I think we'll continue to carry that forward. It just seems to be more cost effective for us to manage that internally. Um, but there's options. I mean, we have footprints pretty much in every major cloud provider. So it really just depends on what the service calls for.
Hybrid seems to be the choice. People, I think, obviously they all started on-prem 100%, and then there was this idea we're going to move everything to the cloud, and then these 5 to 15% cost increases every year and sort of lock in vendors and all of those things. I think that put the brakes on some of that, and now either you are going to be true hybrid, meaning like you are with multiple cloud vendors plus on-prem, or you're just going to have multiple cloud vendors. I don't see any of our customers, large or small, going to one cloud vendor. No one's going all in on AWS in terms of we want everything. They're going to have GCP, they're going to have Azure, they're going to have OCI, as well as AWS. And I think the ones that we see most successfully navigate and avoid some of these cost increases are the ones that have options. You know what? If you're going to raise your price so much, I'll just bring this back on prem. I still have a data center, or I'll move it over to GCP. And they're giving me, having the vendors compete for business is obviously procurement 101. Get some leverage there.
Now, and if you diversify up front, then I mean, aside from the fact that you do have that leverage between the vendors, you also make sure that you continue to have the skills in house to manage those different resources.
Mm. And then the last sort of technology is AI, right? So everybody's talking about AI. Um, how is the university? Well, before we get into how you guys are university doing it, but I just saw an article that said the use of ChatGPT went way down starting at the end of May. Like the
Mhm.
queries went way down. And there was like, why is that really going down? And they're saying because students use AI significantly during the school year. So the load on Grok and ChatGPT and all that went way down in the summer, but it's starting to ramp up again as students get back to school. So
Yeah.
is and this is a really big question, and I know there's no single answer to it. How much of a problem is students using AI and how much of an opportunity is? Because I would think, again, it it helps me write, helps me sort of research things. I guess if used correctly, it can be a real benefit. But as with new technology, there seems to be this fear, like students are all going to use it to cheat and steal, and we need to crack down on AIs. Is Rutgers cracking down on it? Are they helping students? Like, sort of, what's the position of the university with students and AI?
So, I mean, we're leading into our existing academic integrity policies. If you are using an external tool to generate work on your behalf, you need to attribute ownership to that.
Hmm.
Um, The university's position, it varies, honestly, in the sense that you ask 7 different people from 7 different disciplines at the institution, and you're probably going to get 20 different answers.
Right.
There are some like academic fields that are very much leaning into it because that's what they're teaching, like the computer
Hmm.
science department and engineering, like that's what they're teaching. But there's other areas of the university that are a little more cautious. Um, I mean, we did launch with Grammarly about a year ago. Even before it built some of the AI tool sets into it. Um, Originally, there was a lot of apprehension about making Grammarly, which in its core form 18 months ago was really just focused on improving writing.
Hmm.
There was a lot of apprehension there that all of a sudden disappeared when ChatGPT became free and available to everyone. Like all of a sudden, it was like, well, who cares if people improve their grammar if you can use this AI thing to completely write your essay?
Right.
So institutionally, we're being very deliberate. There's a process that we're going through right now where we've formed a number of different communities or committees focused on academic use, administrative use, healthcare. I'm on the technical committee that's helping decide what products we're looking to make available. And we just want to make sure that it is available to the institutional like services, whatever they work out to be, are available to the institution responsibly, both in a way that like we can actually absorb and manage the growth, which probably means that it's going to be very difficult from like a cost perspective to just run out and buy the latest greatest thing and make it available to 80,000 some odd people. So we're really trying to figure out like what products and solutions fit the different requirements that we have across the institution. But I mean,
Hmm.
ultimately, we do want to be able to provide general purpose solutions to the institution community, and we're working to get there before the start of the fall semester.
I mean, I can't. I mean, I can't imagine, but I know at our little firm, there are wildly different opinions on AI and sort of the effectiveness and the usefulness and when we should and when we shouldn't use it. And we're like you. We're trying to figure it out. I'm one to embrace things and give them a shot, but I don't want to royally screw up either, right? I don't want to, put stuff out there that shouldn't be out there, or just And I know a lot of uh, consulting firms in particular, they're generating a lot of content using AI. And we actually did a podcast with a couple of Palisaders where we were asking it questions on procurement and license compliance and software asset management. And wow, the answers we got were, some of them were spot on and some of them were so bad. Like, it is the absolute worst thing to do if you were in that position, but they all looked reasonable. They all looked, because they were written well and they had sources. And if you were uninformed in a particular area and you went there and didn't ask any further questions, it's putting you in a bad spot. So,
Well, we very much want to be sure that we're not falling victim to the current hype cycle that's going on with AI. It's exciting and everyone wants it, and we want to be able to provide those solutions. But at the same time, we want to understand what the actual business requirements are. And I don't want to just go out and buy something for the sake of checking a box
right,
uh, when we really need to work with our faculty, staff, and administration and understand what are we looking to provide here.
right, right. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you coming on with us. I do want to ask, and again, I dated myself in the beginning, but I got to date myself at the end here. Um, so I went to Rutgers. I spent undergrad and law school. So I spent 7 years at two different campuses. And when I first started, nobody had personal computers. You didn't bring them with you, but we had a computer lab. And so
Mhm.
if you needed to write a paper, you took your notebook with all your notes and you signed up for an hour at the computer lab. And sometimes it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning because that's the only time you could get time. I mean, do they still have computer labs, or is every student, do they come equipped with their own laptops now? Are you providing them? I mean, that's got to be a nightmare, just trying to figure out, 60,000 students with 60,000 laptops and how they have access to various internal systems. And they're on the internet, and so they need external access and all that. So that I would think that would be, 60,000 20-year-olds all accessing Rutgers systems is a security and information challenge.
And so, I mean, at this stage, nearly 100% of our student body have some sort of access. I mean, at a minimum, it's a phone, but most people have a laptop.
Mhm,
So one of the things that we do is we make every effort to provide the academic applications to our students. So they have access to the Microsoft suite, um, Google through a web browser, so Google Workspace, and then a number of academic applications that we license are distributed through a university software portal if they want to run it on their personal device. That said, we are supporting a wide range of students coming from all over the state, the country, the world, even, and just want to make sure they have the resources they need. So there are still physical computer labs on campus in New Brunswick, Newark, Camden, and Rutgers Health. We've been cutting the seat count a little bit and reworking them a little bit into collaborative learning spaces.
mhm.
But like at the base of it, you can still go somewhere and use a computer.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, we also offer access to the virtual labs that we sort of called it. So you can remote desktop into a machine that has all of those applications. And that might be a benefit to some people that are using a Mac and might not be able to run a certain piece of software, or if they're on a Chromebook or something like that, or just need a little more horsepower to run a computation.
One of the things you said to me the other day when we were pre-gaming this discussion is you're procuring and and getting software not just to run the business, not just to run the university, but you're trying to educate 70,000 people
Mhm.
and get them into the workforce. So you want the latest and greatest technology and tools available to them. And again, I'll put myself back when I was in law school. Rutgers gave me access to LexisNexis. So I could use that when, I was out of school and I knew the tools. And I'm sure the vendor loved it because we got access to these tools. And when those of us that went into, the private sector, a law practice, whatever, we already knew the tool, right? So I would think vendors are also excited to help you procure this because you are seeding the grounds and sort of they're paying customers later on in life.
Yeah, I mean, we believe that's a big piece of how we're able to get some of our licenses at reasonable
Hmm.
costs. So we do like that is part of the discussion that we have with our vendors. I mean, certainly the things that we're putting directly into student hands are going to be different than the administrative backend tools, but it it helps. I mean, we definitely see that if you're using the Microsoft suite or the Adobe Creative Cloud suite versus a free alternative or something like that. It's what you're trained on. That's what we help
Hmm.
people use, and it's what you're going to ask for when you enter the workforce.
I would do that. I'd be like, hey, Microsoft, come on, I'll show people how to use Outlook, or they can just use Google Workspaces, right? That's the freer version or less expensive version. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for being here and all the work that you're doing and supporting Rutgers. Um, Hopefully, you have a good football year this year.
I know. If you please come to a game. We're
I,
excited this
I
season.
I go to at least one every year, so I wouldn't miss it. We went to one in Giant Stadium last year, or the year before was Giant Stadium against Michigan. No, that was Rutgers Stadium against Michigan. The first half was great. Second half was suboptimal.
No comment.
Well, awesome. Well, Brian, thank you very much. You definitely were the world's greatest podcast guest today. So we really appreciate your time. And everyone, check out Rutgers and all the work that they're doing over there and educause. It's a great service and it's a great way to collaborate. And until next time, everyone, good luck with your IT vendors. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.